Within UPL very much underway, now begins the time of the year where I go over a lot of replays for videos. Hope y'all enjoy this kind of content because you're going to get force-fed it for a bit. Today, as I'm recording this, it's Thursday, and we got this game between Kyther and Axertix that I thought was pretty cool for a couple of reasons. One, Kyther's got a Glaceon, and while Glaceon is by no means a rising star within NU or anything, or even a Pokemon that you see even somewhat frequently, it's very, very uncommon. I think it's a very cool option in terms of anti-meta wall breakers. Because look at NU. What are all of the common steel types? Well, there's none. Berserker is like the only specially defensive steel type that you ever see. And that's not really run very often, because Berserker is a very limited Pokemon. It just doesn't do much of anything beyond set Stealth Rock if you go that route, or run Assault Vest. And it'd be kind of a weak wall breaker, frankly. It's just not that strong. It's still very slow, and even with AV, the mod finds a way to be pretty frail. Shoutouts to the PU video that I did with an AV Berserker. And so Glaceon oftentimes is just tasked with getting past some generally just specially bulky walls. So in this game you got Muck, for example. In other games maybe it's an Umbreon, maybe it's a Chansey. You're not getting past Chansey, but in general you're getting past things like Umbreon, Muck, Vaporeon, Assault Vest, Eel with time. Because Glaceon, although its coverage is pretty limited, is still a really strong Pokemon. If I'm remembering correctly, it's got 130 base special attack. That's really high. And Ice is not the easiest offensive type to switch into. So, since there's so many Pokemon in NU that Glaceon does get free turns versus, i.e., like look at Axtrix's team, for example. Sandaconda, Cacturne, even Rotom to some extent. Glaceon finds a lot of chances to just come in, whether it's off a pivot or a switch into a utility move. And it gets asked the question of, okay, what are you doing? So, I really liked it from this angle. This game from Kyther, let's see how it goes. So, as we see the Glaceon lead immediately, because look at this team. What are you leading to have a good time? Even if you were to lead Muck, right? The one thing that's like actively tanking hits. Tauros is of course a good dissuading option too, but leading Tauros is kinda hard when you're gonna be your win con. Like you lead Muck, okay, I double Rotom or something. Or you still have to be wary of me staying in and just Ice Beaming if you want to make some aggro double on my Sandaconda, for example. So the Rotom's led, Glaceon is also led, and we're gonna see Kyther immediately switch because, while the Mon is super threatening, there's no real reason to let it take free chip. And looking at Axtrix's team, it's kind of always Scarf Rotom. I mean, otherwise, look at how slow this team is. So, the Volt's very easy to read. And this way you get free Stealth Rock while also conserving all of your Glaceon's health. And this lets you double into Scyther the next turn as this Cacturne comes in. This play was pretty insane. When I say insane, I mean in the bad way. It got picked off the next turn. In a previous recording attempt I tried to do, this is the match that I was remembering the sequence happening in, where there was a Scyther that came in on a Cacturne, and I was like, wow, that is such a ballsy play, because this Cacturne could have just smashed you. And, yeah, this is the problem with trying to use Scythers and aggro switch into Cacturne. They, for the most part, run really offensive EV spreads. And Scyther's not a bulky Pokemon, not at least a very bulky Pokemon. So, yeah, it's just very easily, quickly dealt with, and if you're Axtrix, you're feeling super good about that. Because getting rid of Scyther, it gives your Giraffe a little bit more leeway. It definitely gives Tauros more leeway, because that's one potential revenge killer out of the way. You're feeling very, very good at this point. So, let's see, how does Kyther rebound? Well, for starters, they're going to go Glaceon, because you're faster, and Glaceon's physical bulk's really good. So, if a Sucker Punch came out for whatever reason, you're not worried about getting, like, crit KO'd. And we just see, again, this is what I'm talking about. It is not hard for Glaceon to get past these special walls. I do 44! And if this wasn't Heavy Duty Boots Muck, which that pretty clearly says it's Rest Talk, this Mon was getting 2-shot! Add that little 12 on there, it's 56. Okay, it's not 2-shot, but you get the idea. The Glaceon is easily 1v1ing Muck. Anyhow, how it comes in, you know, whether it's to try and block a T-Spike or just match up decently well in the one-on-one, you're going to be able to trade hits pretty easily. We also see Axiotic's very willing to fish for another poison because he knows his Muck's a little faster. Got that one base point advantage. And he just yums up all his health. As the Sandaconda comes out, we do see the Zen Headbutt, something we've seen a bit more in the past few weeks from Muck. On any set, really. It runs Zen Headbutt for its coverage move instead of something like Drain or Fire Punch. Because, well, giving Toxicroak free turns to switch into you, kinda cringe, kinda lame. So, it's a nice option. It also even helps with Rotom a little bit. You know, if you're running into sub-Rotoms, Zen Headbutt's a little bit better to throw off against subs than, say, Poison Jab. And we do see the Muck actually stay in another turn on the assumed switch because, well, hey, why would Axiotic ever stay in? So, he catches the Eel with a little bit of chip as the Sandaconda comes back in, and again, Kyther really trying to predict this Muck to switch out, but Axiotic does not care. He is willing to leverage this Muck, despite it being the only thing that even kinda switches into Glaceon. He is willing to risk its HP every turn. So now the Cacturne comes in, and finally Kyther does get a predicted switch to go well, as he sends in the AV Eel to try and take on this Cacturne. Naturally, it's a little bit scary, because the Mon is so strong, you're already in 2-shot range, but now we see the Glaceon come back in, and as we see now, this Muck is punished for trying to trade earlier with, you know, a Mon it's never beating, the Eternal Wall. And we see the Muck just fall. So now Glaceon is an insane problem. Anytime it comes in versus a Pokemon not named Tauros, it's going to Ice Beam, it's going to claim a KO. Now here's where we see a very interesting Tauros set, one that I've not seen before. And this isn't, like, moveset, but Terra type. So we're going to see Bulk Up, because the switch is pretty obvious there. But next up, we're going to see Terra Steel, and we're going to see Sub Bulk Up. I will continue to take credit for Sub Bulk Up Tauros. Did I use it first in a tournament game? No, but you know what? I had the thought of the set come to mind, and then later that week, I saw people use it. So I guess I telepathically communicated it to the entirety of the Tor player base and in you. So, you're welcome. And yeah, we're also going to see a very odd play from Kyther. I don't really understand the Nuzzle. Actually, no, I do. My bad, Kyther. So, Kyther goes for Nuzzle here, expecting Tauros to switch out. And as well, I'm a Hatchram. And Nuzzle's pretty free. I mean, you could either go... The likely switch would be like Cacturne or Fire Giraffe, and you get the paralysis. But he gets heavily, heavily punished by the Terra Steel / Sub Reveal. Because now this Mon's just setup fodder. So he's going to be able to bulk up again. And we're going to see a very, very unfortunate damage roll here. I don't even know if it's a damage roll, but we're just going to see this live on 1. And had this not tanked that CC, Kyther lost on the spot. Tell me what your response is if this Mon's OHKO'd. Because then the Tauros keeps its sub. We already know Hatchram's not beating this down. Obviously, Glaceon is outsped, and even with Terra, maybe it lives CC, but it's gonna be a pretty... It's not gonna be taking it well. Eel is too low, and Passimian, yeah, you outspeed and break sub, but that's the only Mon that can break sub. It's Jover. So, very, very fortunately, Kyther tanks that hit. This keeps him in the game, because now he can bring up Passimian, actually threaten to... Let me just go to Tauros. And of course, Axtrix has to switch here. So we're going to see a double from Kyther, because you may as well... He's predicting the Sandaconda is my guess here. And you don't want to get Helmet Chip if you can avoid it. And it's not like the U-turn damage would matter. I mean, the Glaceon OHKO Sandaconda, no matter what, whether or not it has a little bit extra chip, so... He decides to preserve a little bit of HP, and then we see a little bit of a stunt here. Why take extra chip? You can become a ground type, and now you match up a lot better too against the Paldean Tauros. You're no longer weak to its CC, and as we mentioned at the very beginning, Glaceon's physical bulk is very, very nice naturally, so it's going to be able to take CC relatively well from this anyway. Now you still don't 1v1 this, so you're going to switch to your Passimian here. And this is also a good reason for why there was no need to take that helmet chip. Imagine that CC crit. You were getting KO'd by a crit right there. There was a helmet chip, so again, it's just very good to preserve HP when you can. You do not need to always make the U-turn, even if it seems free. Sometimes it's not as free. So as Conda comes out, and this time you just see the CC. You don't want to risk that Tauros doing anything, because that Mon is the only threat to your team at this point, really. So, play it as safe as you can. As the Sandaconda attempts to set rocks, it never will. There is a Hatchram. Sandaconda does not get rocks. And here we see another very cool set from Axotix. We see Future Sight Farigiraf. This ends up being Wish-Teched as well, which is pretty cool. Farigiraf is a rather bulky Pokemon, and leveraging its defensive utility is a very different angle compared to how you normally see players opt for Double Dance sets. So, as we see this time, we finally get the Nuzzle off on a Cacturn, as it comes in to try and exploit the Hatchram because, well, beats Hat. And we are going to see Kyther decide, you know what, at this point, I don't need Hat. So, he's going to just let it sit out here for a while. Because, you know, it's like, you'd like to say it's a Tauros check, but with the Tarragon on it, I don't really think that it actually beats it down. Also, we're going to see some very bad luck real quick from this Farigiraf. As you saw it here, it's set Wish, and it gets full parried. I don't know how much this mattered, but obviously now it can't Wish passive itself, and I'm wondering if Farigiraf gets the Wish, does Kyther have any shot of winning? Because this one will go back to full, and then Glaceon is not OHKOing it. It's at full still, so it's not like Farigiraf is 1v1ing it too easily either. But Passimian would have to still try to break through it. It's just a lot more awkward now. So, we see the Eel get picked off by this CC. And we're going to see the Glaceon come in now, because it knows it can live a hit. So it doesn't need to care. And Specs Terra Blast is super free. Cacturn is not taking this move. And we now see the trading damage, and as you can see, this is what I mean. Glaceon can actually take on the Tauros. Cacturn's going to come in, and it is Boots, in case I didn't have that mentioned earlier. And then we're going to see Passimian use U-turn on out, because at this point, Glaceon wins. It is out of Sucker Punch range, barring, you know, any shenanigans. And the Cacturn's going to come in. And again, here's that physical bulk. But mind you, again, a crit would have kicked it off. But there it is. Glaceon putting in an insane amount of work. Taking advantage of, like I said, recent meta trends where, I mean, teams don't really have steel types too frequently. Even stuff with Terra Steel, I feel like that's not as common as it could be. Assault Vest Electros is the only mon that I can think of off the dome that, one, would still check Glaceon decently well, but two, that runs Terra Steel. Because you think about Umbreon, that's running Poison or Fairy. Chansey doesn't matter, but, you know, it's running Fairy. Vaporeon is running Fairy, usually. Muck is running Water or Dark. Dark, primarily. Rotom can sometimes run Terra Steel, though I would like to ask what Rotom is doing back to Glaceon. You know, it's like, okay, congrats, you Terra'd, and you still took over half. Now what? So it's just... it's pretty easy, I would say, to get mileage out of this mon. If you run into a team with Umbreon plus a mon that can kind of offset you as well, it could be a little harder, just given Umbreon can always protect Scout around you, and if it needs to, it can Wish Pass, kind of stall you out a bit more. But this is a very good demonstration, I would say, of the Glaceon being able to take on a pretty standard-looking team with ease. I hope y'all enjoyed this, of course. If you did, leave a like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed. I'll catch y'all next time. Peace.